get your employee experience together. Okay, you get that part together, you're gonna be far, 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 far ahead. And because there's no positive customer experience without a positive employee experience.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Modern Customer Podcast. I'm your host, Blake Morgan. Today, my guest is Calvin Stovall. He is the Chief Experience Officer for Iconic Presentations, where he delivers keynotes all over the world. Calvin specializes in delivering dynamic customer experience workshops and speeches. He has 30 years of experience in the hospitality and nonprofit service industries. During his hospitality career, he worked as vice president of brand marketing with Hilton Worldwide, where he managed 150 Homewood Suites hotels. While under his leadership, the Homewood Suites brand was recognized 4 times by J.D. Power. Calvin's formerly served as CEO of the Soulsville Foundation, a nonprofit in Memphis, Tennessee. He's worked with St. Jude, and he's currently working on a book called Hospitality Historiography, Inspiring Stories of African-American Hoteliers and Industry Pioneers Who Revolutionized the Hospitality Landscape. We are talking a lot about employee experience, that if you want to build a customer experience, you have to understand employees are your customers. And what does that look like from a managerial perspective? What traits do managers need to develop their people, engage, and retain them? Please enjoy Calvin Stovall. Calvin, welcome to the Modern Customer Podcast. It's so nice to see you and chat with you. We were having such a good time chatting. I didn't even want to start recording the podcast. I feel like we could talk for hours. How are you doing?
Yes. I'm doing fantastic, Blake. Thank you so much for having me. Just super excited to get an opportunity to talk.
So, for my audience that don't know you, I brought you in because you are an expert on hospitality, which is such a microcosm for the customer experience world. But let's hear the bit of the career journey. How'd you get into hospitality?
Ooh, I know we don't want to spend too much time on that part, but I'll go as fast as I can. I'm actually a native Chicagoan, so I started in the hospitality industry as a desk clerk at a Holiday Inn in downtown Chicago. It was the Holiday Inn City Center, and then I actually worked at a couple of other hotels downtown, and eventually went to graduate school at Cornell's Hotel School. I went to a
Oh,
graduate
wow.
program there. Yeah. So I have a pretty good background from the hospitality standpoint there. And then after that, I graduated from that program and actually ended up going to work for what was then Promise Companies, which is now as Hilton Worldwide.
Oh, wow.
And yes, Promise was I think they just had 3 brands, but they also had Harris Casino at the time. And they were like, Calvin, which side do you want to go to? Casino, hotel? I'm like, man, I'm a hotel guy. So I ended up doing that, worked at an Embassy Suites a couple of years as an AGM, and then transitioned into corporate. Did research a couple of years, and then became the vice president of brand marketing for Homewood Suites by Hilton. And did that for a few years. Then did some entrepreneurial stuff. Went to Minneapolis, came back, became a VP of global brand training for a couple of years, and then I also went into some nonprofit areas few years as well. I was with St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, working in their fundraising arm, which is ALSAC. I did that a couple of years, and then I became the CEO of a foundation called Soulsville Foundation in Memphis, Tennessee. I don't know how you probably might be too young to know this, but Stax Records is actually that foundation was created out of Stax Records. They have the Stax Museum of American Soul Music, and the artists Isaac Hayes, Staple Singers, Dramatics, were on that label. And so they have the museum there, which is still there, of course, in Memphis. They also have a charter school, as well as an after school music program. So
Wow.
if you want to see something that's ever very, very cool, they have a Stax Music Academy, and watching teenage kids play the theme to Shaft is something you could never imagine. It's one of the coolest things you could ever see. So I did that, and so now I have my own company called Iconic Presentations, and I specialize in delivering keynotes on customer experience, leadership for many organizations. I've done it for a while now, and also work for the Advanced Leadership Institute based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And we prepare African Americans for C-suite roles in a program with Tipper School of Business there at Carnegie Mellon. So doing a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah, it's so nice to
But
have a
I'm
professional speaker on the show.
but you know what? I love it too, and so are you. Again, I'm just excited to talk to you. I just think you're so such an expert in the customer experience space. So we'll be probably speaking to the choir on this call because I'm all a super advocate for customer experience as well. So yeah.
You know what I've learned about the audience, Calvin, is that we we build the language, we give them ideas and stories, they take them and they use them for like the people that don't get it in their organizations. I've realized that's sort of the role. Let's go back to what you mentioned about working in brand marketing. Increasingly, I've just heard so much more interest in how do we build the brand with customer experience? Where do those two things connect, customer experience and brand? With your hospitality hat on, do you have any remarks on how practitioners can think differently about how they connect the dots with CX and brand?
Wow, man, that's a loaded question, but I have a simple answer for you. When I speak to audiences, I talk a lot about, and I'm sure you would agree with this, employee experience. And I just think the employees are your brand. I think that's it. And so, from research that I've seen, it's like 70% of your brand's perception is your employees. And that's it. And so if you make sure that your employees understand what you stand for and the importance, the role that they play in delivering that experience, that is your brand. That's it. So that's the connection. I am a huge proponent for frontline employees or customer facing employees because what happens is a lot of times, nothing against C-suite. I love them all because that's where everything has to flow down from that. They have to have that mindset as well. But without making sure you have that engaged team, I don't care. What is it? Strategy eats, what is it?
Yeah,
Eats for breakfast. I can't
I
remember the exact
know.
quote.
Strategy
Yeah.
eats culture for breakfast.
For
Honestly, when
breakfast,
people say that,
yes.
it's hard for, I'm like, what are you trying to say? I don't.
Yes, yes, that's the one. That Peter Drucker, I think he was the one that said it.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
yes. Culture eats strategy for breakfast because it does. You can
Okay.
have the best plan in the world, but without the people and engaged people and team, is it doesn't matter.
Okay, got it.
So so that's what I mean when I say brand. Your people are your brand. You get that right, you would deliver.
Yeah, and you know when you go to a hotel, Calvin, it's so rare that, well, for me, like you walk in and it's efficient and the front line are smiling. Like I often feel like they don't look at you, like they don't want to deal with you, and you feel bad as a customer. You're like, I wouldn't want to deal with me. Like I get it. You're probably not paid enough. You probably,
Right.
you know, and then you have an experience where somebody wants to serve the customer and you could tell they're treated well at work, it really makes such a difference. But I mean, what's the difference between the C suite that get it and the C suite that don't get the investment in the front line?
Well, you just said it. You could see it. You could feel it. I just had, you know, because it has to come from the top. It does.
Yeah, agreed.
The leadership. I know this is probably all through your new book. The leadership is everything, and if the top layer doesn't understand the importance of that, it's going to flow through the bottom. It's just natural. I've had some lately. I've had two. Well, I usually rent, and I know Enterprise Cars is going to love me for this, but I got to give them some kudos. I've rented a couple of vehicles from them recently, and oh my God, it's been such. The experience has been so pleasant, and the people are just so engaged, and I'm just like, so now I hear they do have a rigorous training program, from what I understand.
Yeah.
But you have to have that. And it's clear to me that somebody at the top is really investing in their team experience and their guest experience because I can feel it. And every time I go, it's consistent. You know what I mean? So even if I call on the phone, the people are nice that way, or even if I'm in person, the same experience. And you can see I've been lately getting pockets of great experiences here and there.
Okay.
But again, it has to come from leadership, and the people have to care. And I feel bad. I agree with you. The hospitality industry is tough. They have labor challenges and all of that, but I also agree that it's a culture thing as well. So if you have the right culture and the leadership understands what the role they play in creating a positive experience, it'll show. It comes out. It just does.
So you're a
Yeah.
manager of people, you're developing your
Yes.
people. What were the
Yes.
most important aspects of developing good people?
Finding good people first.
Yeah.
You got that's where it starts. I'm the advocate. You can't train passion. So you have to make sure that you're bringing people in that are passionate about what they're doing, and care about the customer themselves. And so I'm also about connection, and that's how you get engaged with people today. I talk about today in my keynotes that we live in this soundbite culture where everything is a TikTok, a Snapchat, a comment, or a text.
Yeah.
And you can't connect with people that way. You have to have dialogue. You have to have conversation, and you got to know where people are trying to go. It has to be about more than just the job, right? You got to know if people want, people aspire, they want to grow, they want to do better themselves. And so I think it's important. And I did this even as an AGM, and I still do it today. You have to engage with people, but it has to be, you got to care about me too as a person and an individual. I'm not just a spoken their will. So once a person feels like you care about their growth and their success, they're going to be more engaged. The boss has so much impact on that. And a lot of times we say, employee engagement is the HR's role. No, it's not. If you're a people leader, no, that's your job.
Mhm.
Your job is to keep your team engaged, and you do that through dialogue, conversation, one-on-ones, huddles, or whatever it is you need to do. It's hard. It's not easy to be a leader. You hear people all the time say, "Oh, I can't wait to be a manager. I want to have people reporting to me." You know,
It's
be
hard.
careful what you ask for. It's not easy, and it requires, you're right. It requires work and time and focus, and it can't be about you. It's got to be about them.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean,
Yep.
are there things about hospitality as a manager that you need to have, like the skills you need as opposed to other industries?
No, I think that's why even in you and our cases, when you talk about customer experience, it transcends any industry if you
Mhm.
care about it.
Mhm.
And so I don't think you have to particularly have a certain. First of all, you got to want to give hospitality, and you got to care about people. But I think that's in every industry, not just hospitality. I think there's a certain piece that you need to have because you're really in a service capacity when you're in hospitality, but you're in a service capacity in healthcare and a lot of other industries as well. So I just believe you just have to have a passion for what you're doing, passion if you're in a people leader role, passion for people and their growth and success, and I think you'll be fine and be open to new ideas.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's another big one. You have to be, because these generations, you got a lot of generations under one roof now, and particularly younger people, you got to be open to new ideas, different approaches of doing things, being creative, all of that. People want to. It has to be, like I said, it's got to be about more than just the job. People want to contribute to something that's great, and know they're making an impact and contribution.
Yeah,
All makes a
absolutely.
difference. All makes a difference.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, you've talked a lot about the importance of a good manager, of communication, of listening, of not really living in a Snapchat, TikTok world of meaningless
Yes.
connections and
Right.
transactions. For managers that maybe they feel like they don't have time to give quality time to their employees, like how do they, maybe they need to put a boundary up to say, hey, I need this time to not produce, because many managers produce and they manage and it's too much for them. So there's no art, there's no culture. What would you say, how can they get buy-in from their bosses to say, hey, I don't want to have to produce so much, so I can spend more time on the soft skills, on the managing?
Yeah, wow, and that's a difficult question, but you have to, and you have to be able to let your manager understand that, And that's bad that you got to tell your manager I need to spend more time with my people.
It's so true.
That's hard. Yeah, it is true. But you have to let them understand, hey, listen, if we want to produce and have a better engaged team on the back end, it's going to benefit the organization. And then we have to find time to carve out. And I know we're all busy, but you have to make sure that you find time to do that, because you're going to be in this spinning hamster wheel, because you're not developing your people, you're not spending time with them. It's not gonna work to your advantage. You have to carve out time, and we're not saying you I mean you're not going to be sitting there with them for hours on hours on hours, but having a one-on-one once a week, once every 2 weeks, huddles with your team. You could do team calls. You could find efficient ways to do it, but you have to touch them,
Mm-hmm.
and they have to know that they mean something to you in the organization, because over time, once they disengage, you've seen the Gallup polls, Blake. You know,
Yeah.
70% of employees are disengaged at work. That's a big, big number. And so, but the only way you're going to be able to turn that around is through engagement. And you have to spend time. Like you said, it's hard work. It takes time. But once you get to know your team and they know you, they'll run through the fire for you. You build a great team, you're going to be okay.
Yeah. I mean,
But it
you
takes work.
mentioned employees are customers, which I totally agree. And so
Yes,
many young
yes,
people, especially, they're looking for purpose at work. They're looking for
yes.
something to wake them up of their slumber and feel engaged and alive. I mean, how do you create that culture where people want to come to work? They feel valued and they feel engaged, like part of a team. I mean, you've talked about communication, language. Is there anything else that we're missing?
Yeah, the development piece is huge, because, again, you want to put training in place to make sure that they're growing and developing as well. You're right. People want to come to work feeling great, and having that fire in the belly in the morning, all of that. But if people feel like you, what is the what it, I can't remember how I'm all in these quotes today.
Yeah.
People don't care how much you know,
Yeah.
right? They until they know how much you care. That's one of my favorite quotes, because that's so true. If people know that you care about them, they're gonna come. They're gonna come in and do a great job for you. But when
Yeah.
you people who are ignored, just not gonna put forth the effort. They're just not. And once they get so far disengaged, it's gonna be hard to pull them back. So if you hire the right people, make sure you're communicating with them. Make sure you're telling them thank you, showing appreciation for what they do every day, and making sure that they're getting the development and learning that they need and the growth opportunities. You're gonna be far ahead of many people out here. That's what I tell you today. It's like so many people aren't investing in those things. You would be far ahead
Yeah.
doing it, because your people. That's where the differentiation comes in. Because everybody else can copy what mostly everything else you do, but they can't copy your staff.
Yeah. I mean, you spend a lot of time developing others. You've been doing it for many years in various roles. I think that one of the hindering blocks for managers is that, like we said, they don't have time, but also when they're asked, okay, well, what's the ROI of you taking your team out for coffees or to play sports or whatever it is, the team building? What do you say to those clients that want to know, Calvin, what's the ROI of spending time with the team?
Wow, ROI is retention,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
and their ROI is retention. Oh, because like I said, there's so many. I mean, people today will leave a job. They're like, I'm
Yeah.
not happy. I'm out. And so in those cases, sometimes you can lose some very valuable talent. And what happens is all the time that you've invested, getting them to learn your organization processes and procedures, you want to keep you want to keep them, if they're really good at what they do. And so what you want to do is make sure all of the other things we talked about, the better you can build that, I guess, the relationship between that employee and your organization, and tying in all those other things, you want to keep what you got. It's I know you can I'm all about retention, employee retention, because they say it costs more to hire a new person,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So you want to keep as many people as you can if they're good.
Yeah.
And you do that by doing a lot of the things that we showed that we talked about today. So if somebody says, Calvin, that's going to cost me this much money, you taking them out to dinner, listen, it's going to cost you 4 or 5 times more than that to get a new person. So you got to really, if you have a manager that's, oh, I don't want you doing that, I don't you shouldn't be working there anyway. To be
Mm-hmm.
honest, because if your manager doesn't understand the importance of the customer employee experience, then that culture is probably not right anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they're telling you don't do this, that manager probably doesn't care about you that much as an employee. That's how I see it. So I would just say, hey, try to do the best you can to get them to understand the value of that. Even if they have to pull out some stats from your book or
Yeah.
some of the stats that you post,
Thank
it's
you.
easy to show them, listen, if you do this, this is what you return. I mean, sometimes people are very numbers oriented and sometimes they need to see that.
Yeah.
And you have given them an easy way to do statistics. So I would recommend that anybody out there listening, you need stats, Blake puts them for you. You use those in your arguments, honestly,
Yeah.
and you can show people that. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but I've been also giving the advice like sometimes you have to do things. I took this from a CEO of Progressive Insurance. Her name is Trisha Griffith, that you can't scale and you can't measure, which is something you're talking. It's like handwritten notes, showing, taking the time to show someone you
Yes.
care. Like there's no time, everyone is busy. But I want to switch gears and talk to you about emotionally intelligent managers. I mean, just even speaking with you, it's very clear to me that's one of your superpowers. I'm going to assume is that you are emotionally
I
intelligent. Like you can read the
I would
room.
say I am.
Yeah. A lot of people, it's hard for them. They're good producers. Being a manager, understanding the ins and outs of their teams, emotional intelligence, it's a huge headache. Do you have any tips for managers that need to work on the emotional intelligent aspects of their job?
You know what? And that's the thing. A lot of people are hiring new managers and new leaders that haven't had, um, I guess, matured in that way. I'm just going to say this: the great thing about emotional intelligence is it can be taught. They're
Okay.
learned skills.
Okay.
They're learned skills. So if you have not, and if you feel like you have opportunities in that area, there are a lot of organizations like Talent Smart, and some other organizations out there that teach emotional intelligence. I would say go take some courses. There's online courses and all of that, and that's out there. And I think today, particularly, to be a really effective leader, you have to have EQ.
Hmm.
So I would say again, the key is you have to understand. Self awareness is a big thing, right? And so if you can strengthen self awareness and know where you have opportunities to grow, go get the training. Nobody knows everything. Come on. I mean, honestly, you have to have the humility to be able to go out there and understand, hey, I need some growth in this area. And usually there are people around you that have told you you need it, but you might just ignore it. But usually when you hear it a lot, maybe I
Yeah.
need to go get some training on this. And so, but don't ever let your ego get in the way of becoming a better leader. You
Yeah.
gotta go out there and get some training in EQ. It'll help you be more effective.
So we have a few minutes, Calvin, before we do our fun rapid fire getting to know you. Do you have any
Oh
last
wow.
closing remarks that you want to leave our audience with, just in if they want to level up their customer experience game? Like what are of the top things they could do?
Okay. I say the first thing is number one to me. Get your employee experience together.
Hmm.
Okay, you get that part together, you're gonna be far, 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 far ahead. And because there's no positive customer experience without a positive employee experience, it just doesn't occur. The other thing that I would say to anybody out there is people are going to emulate and mirror what they see in their leadership. If you're one of those people that come in, you're complaining, you're angry, you're not engaged, trust me, that's going to bleed out into what your employees deliver to your customers. So, if you are a leader that leads with vitality and vigor, you're excited about coming to work, that is going to inspire your team and that will help make sure that your team stays engaged as well. So how you walk in, how you show up every day, that's going to make an impact. So those two, employee experience and how you show up, those are I would say, two of the biggest, most important things, I would say.
Yeah, I would say that's very true. And employee
Mm-hmm.
experience, it's very hard to do. Self-awareness is very hard to do, but like you said, it's
Mm-hmm.
such a relief to know, at least with self-awareness and emotional intelligence and these leadership traits, like what a relief to know we can learn. We can,
You can learn
there
them.
are steps. It's a relief because we don't have to be born as good leaders. We can learn and grow.
Yes.
Let's get
Yes.
to know you a little bit and have some fun. Are you ready for some quick rapid fire questions?
Oh man, rapid fire questions. Oh, okay. Let's go.
All right. Well,
Let's
you
go.
probably already know these questions since you seem to follow the show. First one, what's the most important part of your morning routine?
Going to get me some Starbucks tea.
Oh, perfect. What's your favorite kind of
Well,
tea?
I drink Mint Majesty. I
Oh,
like
you're
Mint
so healthy.
Majesty.
So no caffeine.
Sometimes I'll do green.
Oh,
Sometimes I'll do green. And the other part, I do that second. But my first part, I read my scripture from my Bible thing, and then I turn on my music, watercolors with my jazz, and then I get dressed, and then I
that
go
sounds
get my tea.
amazing. I
Yeah,
look forward to
yeah,
that
yeah.
when my kids are teenagers and are more self-sufficient. I'll get some time for myself. um,
Right.
what show are you currently streaming right now?
Right now, I'm looking at The Shy, which is one of my favorite shows.
Hmm.
I also look at Ghost. I look at documentaries often. I just saw a documentary called um, Tell Them You Love Me.
Oh yeah,
So so I look at documentaries often, old things. I'm looking at a documentary about Jack Johnson right now, but those are pretty much. I don't. I can't remember the name of the show, but it was pretty popular a couple of years ago. Ozarks was one of my favorite. I was hooked on that for a while, but
yeah,
but yeah, those are my two shows right now. I watch The Shy and I watch Ghost a lot. That
sounds
show there,
good.
yeah.
What is your favorite leadership book or resource?
John Maxwell,
Oh yeah,
love his leadership books, and I also love Dysfunctions of a Team, and I of course I'm waiting for your book to come out.
you're like the nicest podcast guest I've ever had. I don't think anyone has ever
I'm waiting
been
for.
so attentive to what I do. Thank you.
I'm looking. I'm waiting for your
That's so
customer
sweet. I'm gonna send
focused
you a
leadership.
copy,
Yeah.
even
Oh,
if
thank
you
you.
you won't read it. I'll send it.
Oh, I'm going to read it. Trust me, and I'm going and I'm going to use it, Blake. Trust me, you will be quoted in my keynotes.
Oh,
So,
so sweet.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Wow.
So,
I've really
yes.
managed to like take over your interview and now it's about me. That's not good. Let's get back to you. Back to rapid fire. Okay. If you could have lunch with anyone dead or alive, who would it be?
Dead or alive?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a good question. I'm going to go with alive. I would want to have a conversation with Mr. Michael Jordan.
Oh, yeah.
I would.
Super.
I would really like to hear about it because coming from I'm from Chicago, so all those championships, all of that was going on during when I was living there. So I would like to have a conversation with him. I would like to also have a conversation with Obama. I would also like to have a conversation. I'm going on,
Just in
and if
Chicago.
somebody, yeah, and if somebody dead, I would love to have a conversation with Prince or Michael Jackson.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
Those are
yes,
good
yes.
answers. That's great.
Hmm.
All right. And lastly, if you could summarize your life in one quick motto, what would it be?
Mm. Okay, I don't want to get too spiritual on you right here, but I'm going to.
Okay.
This is my motto right now, Galatians 6:9. Let us not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up.
Aw, that's very inspiring. Thank you.
That's
Beautiful.
that's it. That's it. That's my thing right now.
That's wonderful. Very positive.
Hmm.
Well, Calvin, if
Yes.
people want to hire you for a keynote or get some consulting, are you a consultant as well?
Yes, I will help. Look, I'm here to help and
Okay.
serve. So if somebody needs some assistance in trying to figure out employee experience and how to build a stronger culture, of course, I will do that. But I'm a keynote. I love doing keynotes. I do workshops as well. So they can find me on LinkedIn, of course, under Calvin Stovall. My company is iconicpresentations.com, or you can email me at calvin at iconicpresentation, not .com, .net, I'm sorry. Calvin at iconicpresentations.net.
Perfect.
So you can find me, yeah. Or you could put iconic speaker, Calvin, it'll come up.
Good.
Yes,
Let's
yes,
give them a few channels. That sounds good. Well,
yes,
this has been really
absolutely.
fun. It's so nice to have such an
Yes,
eloquent speaker on the podcast. It's just
well,
very
thank you.
refreshing. So, really appreciate you being here, and hopefully, we can do this again soon.
I would love to, Blake. I'm actually writing a book now called Hospitality Historiography. And it's about African American hotel ownership dating back to the mid 1700s up through segregation through the civil rights and then today. I would love to come back here when I finish have my book,
Yeah.
kind of talk about it when
When is that going
if
to
you're
be
interested.
ready?
End of 2024, hopefully, if not by next Black History Month for sure. So I would love to come back on and talk to you about
You
it.
have an
Be
open
great.
invitation.
Thank you. Thank
You'll come
you.
back.
Thank you so
You let me
much.
know. Everybody, you have been tuning into the Modern Customer Podcast. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Until next time. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel or follow me on social media, including Instagram, LinkedIn, X, and more.